Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Portland Friday Forum. I am John Horvick, City Club President, and I'd like to welcome members and guests alike. Those of you who join us today at the Governor Hotel, and those of you listening on OPB Radio or watching on Portland Community Media. Today, we will present the Civic Awards and hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Nancy Golden, Chief Education Officer of Oregon. But first, some announcements. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners ensures we put on the state's best civic programs week after week. I'd like to thank our media partners, including Oregon Business Magazine. Our current Friday Forum sponsors are Geffen Mesher, Iberdrola Renewables, Perkins Coie, Portland General Electric, and Providence Health and Services. We are grateful for your support and commitment to City Club's mission. Please join me in a warm round of applause for all of them. Next week, City Club will discuss the business of sports with Merritt Paulson, owner and president of the Portland Timbers and Portland Thorns. Prior to next week's forum, members will also be voting on the research report on Oregon's property tax system. Doors will open at 11, and the debate will begin at 11:30. The report is available on the club's website, and while you're there, you can sign up for a town hall discussion on the report scheduled for next Wednesday. You can learn more about these and other club events, purchase tickets, and become a member on our website, pdxcityclub.org. As always, we'll be live tweeting at today's event. You can follow us or mention us at PDX City Club, and be sure to use the hashtag CityClub in your own tweets. We will be having a Q&A session with our guests at the end of today's program. Members, please come to the microphone to ask your question. For all our audience participants, please locate the index cards on the center of your tables and write your questions on them during the forum. We'll collect them prior to the start of the Q&A. Before we start our program, there's one more announcement that I'm honored to make. On September 9th of this year, the City Club Board of Governors approved an amendment to the club's bylaws that will go into effect on December 1st. This historic change marks the second time in the club's 97-year history that the bylaws have been changed to include a new population. In 1973 with the admission of women, and in 2013 with the admission of high school students and youth of high school age. This important change clears the way for the club to implement one of our recommendations of our 2012 research report on improving civic education in Portland's high schools, which was adopted by City Club membership in June of 2012. Recommendation number 6 in that report encourages the inclusion of youth as full voting members on boards and committees in Portland area governments. With this change to our bylaws, City Club continues its tradition of modeling the best in civic engagement practices. And right now, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the members of our Civic Education Committee. If you are here, would you please stand up so we can thank you for your work? Here's one example of why this change is so important. This summer, we received an application for participation on our research committee studying the GED. And that committee will publish its report early next year. The applicant was a Lincoln High School student with everything that City Club looks for in a study committee member: civically engaged, smart, energetic, and open-minded. He lacked only one qualification, however. He wasn't yet 18. Even knowing that he may not be able to vote on the report that he would work to produce, Marty Berger has rearranged his class schedule to attend weekly meetings and has made important contributions to the committee's work. Now, thanks to the work of the Club Civics Education Advocacy Committee that led to this change, Marty will now be able to serve as a full participant in the study, clearing the way for his peers to participate in future City Club committees and boards, bringing an important perspective to our work. Marty, on December 1st, I will be proud to welcome you as a member of good standing of City Club of Portland. Will you please stand so we can thank you for your dedication and service? And now to our program. In 2011, City Club launched the Civics Education Study Committee, charged with the task of determining the state of civics education in the Portland Public School District. That research resulted in a report available on the City Club website, which verified the need for comprehensive civics education that included conclusions and recommendations for further advocacy. In 2012, that same committee transitioned into the Civics Education Advocacy Committee and has spent the last 15 months advocating to local and state policymakers for a comprehensive civics education for all students. To explain what a comprehensive civics education includes, tell us more about the Civic Awards, and introduce our award winners is the current chair of the Civics Education Advocacy Committee, Jan Christensen. Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this very special day. City Club continues to make history. Today, for the first time in the club's history, we are recognizing community organizations and individuals who believe that youth deserve a seat at the table when public policy decisions are made. Your Civics Education Advocacy Committee continues to advocate for best practices in civics education. Our research has led us to conclude that a comprehensive civics education includes an academic component, and then because students need a place to exercise their new knowledge, an opportunity for all students to engage in civic business. And here's why youth civic engagement is so important for our community and our state. Throughout our research, we met with many community members and students who all told us students want to make a positive difference in their community. They do have the desire to understand our political systems and the desire to use their enthusiastic voices to change systems and make our communities better places to live. As the Advocacy Committee learned more about current community efforts, we began to see the need to recognize and honor the many teachers, civic leaders, and community organizations that place youth civic engagement at the heart of their work. And this is for a couple of reasons. First of all, just to say thank you for their hard work, but secondly, to inspire others to create additional opportunities that can involve yet more of our youth. The call went out for applications. The Civic Awards were born, and we received 22 applications from outstanding organizations and individuals. And as we began the review process, a member of our selection committee commented, "There's a lot of cream in this pot." And indeed there is, and our community is the lucky recipient of all this hard work. On each of your tables, you will find a yellow card that lists these organizations and individuals who all recognize the power and importance of young voices. If you are connected to any of these organizations, we salute you and thank you for your commitment. Throughout this process, we have been supported and encouraged by the Multnomah Bar Foundation, and we thank them. Judge Franz. Joining me today are Judge Julie Franz, who is president of the Multnomah Bar Foundation Board, and Dr. Nancy Golden, who we will hear more from in just a few minutes. These leaders are here today to help us honor our winners. Now, because of limits on our broadcast time, I must ask you to please hold your applause until all of the winners have been announced, have received their awards, and have made a few marks. And then we can celebrate their success. The first organization that we are recognizing today is Momentum Alliance. Momentum Alliance supports youth across diverse, underrepresented backgrounds and serves as a launching pad for participants as they become the next leaders of the social justice movements they care so very much about. MA was chosen for the Civic Award because of their inclusiveness and their mentoring of future community leaders. And accepting the award today for MA is Diego Hernandez, their board president, who is himself quite a history maker. At the age of just 25, Diego was the youngest ever elected member of the Reynolds School District Board and the first Latino. Congratulations, Diego.
Thank you. Thank you, City Club of Portland. What does inclusivity really mean? For us, it means that not only do we represent a multiplicity of ethnicities, religions, disabilities, sexualities, immigration statuses, but it also means that when we say we are youth-led, that we mean it. 70% of our board is 25 and under. This guarantees that our youth are leaders and decision makers at all levels of our organization. They are provided with experienced coaching to make sure that they succeed. Our mission is simple. We want to inspire youth to realize their power individually and collectively, and to mentor the future social justice leaders. We all know that we need leaders from underrepresented communities in public service and elected office. How do we do this with youth who are most affected by poverty and oppression? We have two amazing programs: Student Alliance Project, a youth-led leadership camp that breaks down walls between diverse youth while building confidence and trust where they learn and practice advocacy skills. Our second program is the next step, Leveraging Momentum, a network of young folks under 30 who are emerging leaders and are ready to diversify policy decision-making. The idealism and power behind Momentum Alliance is one of the main reasons that I decided to run for public office at the age of 25. Like the City Club of Portland, we want youth to be included on boards and committees. Can I have Momentum Alliance please stand up? So thank you for the recognition and for your commitment in youth engagement. One more thing, we are in the Give Guide. Check us out. I had to give that shout out, you know. The brochures are in the back. Thank you.
The Multnomah Bar Foundation is so privileged to be part of this very special award luncheon today to celebrate the outstanding civic education work that's being done in our community. We're just delighted to be contributors to this project, these awards, and to honor the very worthy recipients today. The next award goes to Community 101. Community 101 makes philanthropy education relevant and compelling by turning grant making on its head. Rather than having students apply for support, their role is to give away money. Last year alone, Community 101 participants throughout the state awarded $310,000 to their communities. Beyond this, often student participants chose to raise additional funds and become community advocates for the causes they chose to support. Community 101 is being recognized for its innovative approach to facilitating youth civic education and engagement. Very proud and privileged to be part of this award ceremony, and the director of Community 101, Janessa Datuma, is the recipient. Please come forward, Janessa.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Oregon Community Foundation and the PG Foundation, we thank the City Club of Portland for recognizing the amazing Community 101 teachers and students around the state. And true to youth advocacy and youth leadership, I would like to welcome 2 Community 101 students from Upland Meadows High School, Malik Owens and Diana Munoz, who will accept the award.
As diversity strengthens, our connection between people can look upon what is needed in society. With support from the PGE Foundation and 36 other donors, the Community 101 program is giving thousands of Oregon youth like us a platform to learn about issues, voice our opinions, and make a difference. We are learning why and how decisions are made. We become advocates for ourselves and communities for people who are underserved and unrepresented. In 2012 and 2013, Community 101 students volunteered over 9,900 hours and granted $300,000 to $18,000 to hundreds of community organizations.
We, the Open Meadows Community 101 students, are honored to accept this award on behalf of Community 101 program, the Oregon Community Foundation, and the PGE Foundation. And I'd like to take a second to thank everybody responsible for Community 101 for letting me and all my classmates make our community a better place. Thank you.
And now, we are very pleased today to introduce to City Club and to our community our first Civic Laureate. Kendall Jensen is a teacher at Roosevelt High School. She teaches environmental science, and she told me that when she first arrived at Roosevelt High, in her words, she found students eager to do something with meaning. Determined to empower her students through knowledge, she launched ASAP, a science and air pollution club for Roosevelt students, challenging them to apply understanding of the physical environment to bring about positive change in their community. Kendall students have studied environmental problems, created educational materials for their community, partnered with PSU on an innovative plant-based air purification project, and have advocated to state legislators for more protective health and air emissions regulations. Kendall represents the best in our teaching force and is proof that any classroom curriculum can inspire students to civic engagement. Congratulations, Kendall.
Very early in my teaching career, I came to a profoundly humbling and ultimately devastating revelation. For some students, there are no amount of cool videos or interesting articles or iPad apps or ooey-gooey explosive experiments that will ever move them to be invested in my classroom or school in general. So what do you do? What do you do to engage a group of students who are otherwise, for one reason or another, unengaged? I don't need to discuss the statistics on these students. We know that they are less likely to graduate, more likely to you know. For me, and for most teachers I know, the real challenge of education, where the rubber really hits the road, is reaching the unreachable students. My greatest success with reaching these students is creating student-driven, community-based projects. There is little room in my curriculum to talk about Portland's real and troublesome air pollution problems, and it's not for a lack of imagination. Any teacher could say the same thing about the topics they find engaging. Regardless, these topics deserve to be taught in a real context the kids can taste and touch and smell and see and feel, really feel and connect with on a daily basis, not just once in a while. I feel so passionately about this. So I've been asked to give some recommendations. And I'll start with politicians and administrators. We as educators are being asked to teach our students skills and competence, but what we also do is cultivate curiosity and passion and empowerment. Give your teachers, particularly those working with our most at-risk youth, the time, support, and resources to be successful. Parents, community members, and business leaders, you have been my greatest resource. Continue to reach out to schools in your area at all levels, particularly the younger levels. Whether it's your time or your expertise, we are in desperate need of you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for your support. And teachers, keep your head up. Yes, the standards are overwhelming. Yes, they can water down the curriculum. Regardless, never lose sight of relevance. Your greatest gift to your students is illuminating how your subject area is a part of their culture and their history and their health and their economic situation. Second, delegate, delegate, delegate. You will never have enough time to do all of this, and you shouldn't be expected to. Empower your students and community members. You may only need to get the ball rolling. You may not need to push it forever. Lastly, if you're thinking about creating a larger project or organization and don't know where to start, ask your students. Kids have a great sense of justice, and they just want to help their communities at a younger age than we realize. This is the most self-aware, open-minded, and empowered generation in human history. They are so smart. Once you find something that they are invested in, they'll run with it. Have faith in this and support them all the way. If I could please have my ASAP students rise. You are amazing. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to all of our winners. And although you didn't hold your applause, I thank you for containing your total enthusiasm, and we could probably celebrate their successes right now. These are truly amazing people, and we are very thankful that we were able to share them with you. And now, it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Nancy Golden. In August of 2013, Dr. Golden accepted the position as Oregon's Chief Education Officer. With over 30 years of experience as a teacher and educational leader, Nancy has served as superintendent of the Springfield Public Schools in Springfield, Oregon, from 2003 to 2013, and as educational advisor to the governor during the 2011 legislative session, and continues to act as the alternate chair of the Oregon Education Investment Board, or OEIB. Under Nancy's leadership, the Springfield Public School District developed the Springfield Quality Education Model, significantly increased student achievement, and successfully passed a $42.7 million bond. In addition, the district was the first in Oregon to implement the one-to-one initiative and opened a new school, the Academy of Arts and Academics. Nancy is highly regarded for her work in promoting equity in schools, and in 2011, she was selected as Oregon's Superintendent of the Year. Dr. Golden will share the vision behind the state's 40-40-20 goal and will discuss her priorities for ensuring that each student has boundless opportunities for a promising future. Welcome to City Club, Dr. Golden. Thanks so much for your help. Can you move all this up?
Thank you. This is truly the perfect day for me to be able to address the City Club of Portland because I got to be here when Civic Awards were given, and as a superintendent and in my current position, I think civics and education is critically important. One of the first group of people who came to visit me were the people from your subcommittee, Civics Education and Advocacy Awareness Committee. And you know, when you start a new job, it's kind of lonely, and when they came in, I just wanted to throw my arms around them and said, oh, we can do great work together. So when I was superintendent, we did so much in terms of civic education. We had study circles on racism. And as we studied the history of racism and issues around racism, the students in that group decided they were going to make sure that in leadership, we would have kids who reflected the color of the students in our community. So civics education is so important. I'm just thrilled to have seen the people get the award. Congratulations and well-deserved. The second thing, one thing I know from sure in my years of being an educator, that there is nothing more important than a quality teacher. And a quality teacher with every group of students, this significant difference it can make in terms of students' learning is profound, and we are in the midst of a quality teacher. You can see that from what she's doing in her class and what you had to say. It's an honor to have been in the room with you today. Congratulations. So after I leave today, I will be getting on an airplane to go to Palo Alto, where I'm on a board that is a collaborative between a professor at Stanford and a nonprofit organization. And it is an organization that is committed to decision making and making sure that students have very strong decision making skills. So along with civic engagement, we have to know how to make good decisions. And that's what it's committed to. But why I mention it is because we're committed to decision making, we decided that we were going to have a MOOC. And we have 6,000 people in our class, and of the 6,600 are still taking this class. It's free to everyone. All you have to do at the end, if you want, is to give a donation to Decision Education Foundation. And why I mention that, when I'm going to talk about what we're doing to meet the 40-40-20 goals, it's very important for all of us to recognize that the world our students are being educated in today is very different than the world that many of us in this room were educated. And I see such hope and such possibilities because it's all about believing in every student and knowing I think for a long time we've asked students to change for schools, and it's time for schools and how we deliver education to change for students. A MOOC is one example of how some students might really engage and be successful in a class like that, where they might not be other places. So it's an exciting time. The vision of 40-40-20, I believe strongly, is very obtainable for each and every one of our students. And I want to talk about that with you today and tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the Oregon Education Investment Board. However, before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about myself. I did ask what would be meaningful to this group, and what I was told is telling a little bit of your narrative is important, and so I will do that. I want to begin by saying that my father was in World War II, and he was a fighting tiger, one of the few that are left. When my father went to war, he told me when he came home, when I was old enough to really understand, I went to war for 2 reasons. Well, when you're at war, he said, there's 2 things that are really important. One is getting home, and the second is making sure we eliminate this horrendous discrimination that was happening during World War II. Because of that, my father really believed the way we were going to eliminate discrimination was through education. And he thought there was nothing more important than education. Now, my father used to always say to me, if I went to a doctor, he'd say, honey, be respectful to that doctor, but remember, without an educator, there'd be no doctor. If I went to the rabbi, he would say, pray hard, honey. We all need to pray, but remember, without an educator, there would be no rabbi. So education is really deep in my family, who we are. We believe it is the great equalizer, and I am so thrilled that going from the time that my father installed those values in me, I've been able to have 40 years. Everyone says a little bit more than 30. This is my 39th year, so I'm going to round it up because it's really a lot closer. Approximately 40 years of being an educator, all in the state of Oregon. And the interesting thing is I started as a teacher in Springfield, and then I did many other things and came back to be a superintendent in the very same school district that I was a teacher. And it was just thrilling to have students of mine who worked with me to make sure the education in Springfield was wonderful for each and every student. The only other thing I want to say, as I tell you a little bit about what I did before, is that one of the things I'm proudest about in Springfield Public Schools is the creation of the Academy of Arts and Academics. We found a group of students. I came to Springfield from being on the faculty at University of Oregon, and on the faculty at University of Oregon, I was in an assessment. I'm not an assessment person, but the department did a lot of assessments, so I really got used to looking at data. And I saw a group of students who, on standardized tests, achieved well, but they were failing out of school and they were behavior problems. And when I brought these students together in a focus group, it became perfectly clear to me that these students needed a different form of education. Comprehensive high schools are terrific for most students, but they're not for all students. So we created what is called the Academy of Arts and Academics. And through that academy, there's now about 330 students in that academy. Again, these were students who were dropping out. They now have the highest test scores in reading and language arts in the school district and science, and 83 of them graduated last year and are going to college. Why I tell that, isn't that terrific? Why I tell that story is I believe so deeply in we need to make sure if we want to meet the 40-40-20 goals, that we know all students don't learn in the same way, they don't learn on the same day, and we have to make sure we have choices so all our students can be successful. Now, I was retiring from the school district in June, and after that was going to work for Chalkboard, which is an organization I have tremendous respect for. Students gave me some advice when I retired. They said, walk every day with a panda. These were second graders. Gotta admit, that sounds pretty good. Or another piece of advice was become a ninja. I guess the piece of advice I liked the most was never, ever, never, ever read an email message again. Yes. I'm sure like many of you, I read hundreds of those a night, and just the thought that maybe I wouldn't need to do that was incredibly freeing. So you might ask, why would I ignore all that terrific advice to go back into a job that is as demanding as a job as Chief Education Officer? And I chose to do that because I truly believe we are in a moment in time in education in Oregon. We have a great governor who has a line of sight focus on education. When I was his advisor, he kept saying again and again, education is so critically important. Education, healthcare, and jobs, because together, if we get those three right, there'll be more money for education, which ultimately, it's just a circle, creates more jobs and a much better state to live in. So, knowing that with the governor we have and the partners we have, I was just talking to this wonderful young man who's been working on the GED research study, and I can't wait to see it. And what I know is there's clubs like this all over the state who care about education, are in subcommittees who are really looking at really important issues around education. Those are our partners at the Oregon Education Investment Board. In addition to that, I know there's groups like collaboratives like All Hands Raise that are determined to make sure that ninth grade counts, that every student gets into ninth grade and gets the credits they need to be on track for graduation. I've already mentioned Chalkboard, but Chalkboard has done significant work, particularly around teacher quality, to ensure that there's a quality teacher with absolutely every student. It is these partners that make me very confident that we can reach 40-40-20. So I've been in this job 3 months now, and I've been traveling all around the state. I live in Springfield still. This is my third trip to Portland this week, and most of the meetings, the two previous meetings ended at 9, so I got home about 11 o'clock, and I just love Portland. Next week, I'll be here 4 days. So I'm beginning to think of this as my second home, and I'm beginning to think of myself as a road warrior as I go up and down that freeway. So, but what I'm seeing is I've also been in John Day, and I'll tell you, I was so touched in John Day because people came from 4 hours away at 7 o'clock at night knowing they wouldn't get home till 1:30 in the morning because they care about education and they wanted to talk to me and the other people in the room about how we could ensure that students in John Day got quality education. So there is a buzz in the state of Oregon, and it's really about caring so deeply about our students, young and a little bit older. So it certainly is a moment in time, and I am just thrilled to get to be part of this. Well, the other thing I found when I was going across the state is that people really didn't understand what the Oregon Education Investment Board does. People kept saying to me, what is it that you do? So I want to clarify that today and show you how it is different than something like the Oregon Department of Education, which is one of the agencies, or the Community College Workforce Agency. So let me tell you about the 4 big things that the Oregon Education Investment Board does and why I think it is so critical to our success. The first thing the Education Investment Board does is develop a seamless system of education from birth to college and career or career and college. Now, how we go about doing that, or how we know if we've done that, is we have achievement compacts that measure key targets along the way. These targets begin with ready for kindergarten. Now, I can tell you as a K-12 educator for years, if students are ready for kindergarten, they can easily meet the next target, which is reading at grade level above and 3rd grade and every target after. I can also tell you, as a person who, whenever they had a bad day, went to a kindergarten classroom, every hope, every possibility is in every single kindergarten classroom. There's not a student in there who doesn't believe they can do great things and be a great person who contributes to their community. So the first target is students are ready for kindergarten. The second is reading at grade level by 3rd grade. Next, it's making sure in 6th grade students attend, because we know when kids stop attending school, it's a very slippery slope. The next one is 8th grade math. And then in 9th grade, we want to make sure that students are on track for graduation, and that's 6 credits. In 12th grade, we want students to have 9 college credits, because what is clear, students who start getting college credits in high school go to college more than students who don't and stay in college. College is a little bit scary for some people, but once you take the credits in high school, you really see that it's not quite that scary. At the community college, because this is a birth to career system, we want to make sure that there's more GEDs, that there's more transfer degrees, that there's more associate degrees. And then as we go into our four-year institutions, we want to see more BAs and MAs and PhDs. So those are the targets that are going to tell us if we're successful in terms of creating a seamless system. We want all students to move successfully along that pathway, or if they've gotten off the pathway, to come back on and be successful. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we really manage the transitions. We want smooth transitions. So going from high school, from college, we want that to be very smooth. And so we kind of think of it as 11 through 14. I don't know if you all know, but there's many students who get accepted to a college, intend to go to a college at high school graduation, but never show up in the fall. We need to make sure that transition is smooth so they do get to college. So we manage transitions all because we want to meet that 40-40-20 goal, but one of the other big things we do is that we need to overcome the barriers. So I call myself a barrier buster. And there's many barriers along the pathway. I'll just give you a few examples. We've been talking about college a little bit. Well, do you know that there's a thing called College Now, and they can be taught in high school, but the teacher has to have a very precise degree. So they have to have a master's of biology if they want to teach a biology College Now course. They could be teaching AP biology and all of their students could get the highest score, but they can't teach that. At the same time as they need a master's in a content area, our universities are giving masters of educations, not masters in content areas. Those are some barriers that we need to overcome. The second thing is you might hear of a student who said, I have 60 college credits. It happens. Students graduate with 60 college credits. Some graduate anywhere between 0 and 60. And those who have a large number of credits think they finished 1 year of college, and the parents are counting on that because they really need that because they can only afford 3 years, or it would really help. But the courses aren't articulated with the college courses, so they show up thinking they're ready for sophomore year, and what they learn is, oh, but yeah, you took some college credits, but those don't count towards your college degree. That's a barrier for students that we need to overcome. So the second thing we do is we manage the transition and we overcome the barriers. The third thing we do is we make key investments that we believe are going to help students successfully move along that pathway. Some examples of the investments we made this year: we made investments in mentor teachers, because what we know is we lose many of our great teachers the first 5 years of their teaching. We made investments in quality teaching because we know what a difference it can make. We made investments in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and the math. And these investments are particularly to encourage girls to go into these careers and to encourage underrepresented groups of children to go into these careers. We've increased by 3,000 the amount of opportunity grants for students in our state. And we've increased 9 additional Aspire centers. Aspires are in high school and really help students make the transition to college. It was a $75 million investment. I've only talked about a few of the things we do, but we believe these strategic investments will really make a difference in terms of having students be successful all along the pathway. So that's the third thing we do. And the fourth thing we do is we budget to outcomes. So what does budgeting to outcomes really mean? Well, let's talk about that very first target. I've talked to you about how important it is, ready for kindergarten. For the very first year, students in our school took a kindergarten readiness assessment. Teachers will still be assessing kids the way they do, but what this assessment is going to tell us, for kids who went to preschool, which preschools really did a great job on making sure that students came to kindergarten ready to learn. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move the money that we invest into the programs that are making a difference. We'll support the other ones in learning what the successful programs did so they can be equally successful, but we have to budget to outcomes. And if the outcome is ready to learn in kindergarten, we need to know who's doing that, and those are the people that will be giving the resources. Another way to understand this is to think about college. Right now, colleges, community colleges and four-year colleges, get money based on their enrollment. If they have high enrollment, they get more money. In the future, they will be getting money based on how many students get an AA degree, how many students get a transfer degree, how many students get a BA, how many students get a master's, how many get a PhD. They'll get money for producing outcomes, not inputs. So that's the fourth part of what we do in the Oregon Education Investment Board. We are responsible for birth until career and college. And so all the other organizations, the early learning organizations at the state, run by Jada Ripley, the Department of Education by Rob Saxton, the Community College by Gerald Hamilton, and the Chancellor of Higher Ed, Melody Rose, we all meet together to say this is one seamless system. Let's talk about how we overcome barriers and we make sure all our students are successful. So that is what we do on the Oregon Education Investment Board. Now, one thing that has become really exciting as communities started thinking about how do we make this seamless, community organizations started to get together, and all hands raised in Portland is a model, as is the Eastern Promise in Eastern Oregon and Connected Ed in Lane County. All of these brought multiple people together, multiple organizations, and started working to help us help students be successful. We've now funded 12 what we're calling regional collaboratives, because quite honestly, when the state was doing this, it wasn't near as exciting as when community was working, and our governor believes deeply, and our job is to be tight about the standards, the targets, the outcomes we want, but loose about how we go about achieving those. Those are to be left up to communities and school district boards and community college boards and college, four-year college boards or collaboratives. So we're really excited about these. And the other thing that we're doing is we're going to take one person from each of these 12 collaboratives so we become a learning group of what's each collaborative doing. Now what All Hands Raised has done is really focused on ninth graders being on track. What Eastern Oregon has focused on is how do we really make it so students can get a lot of college credits in high school. And what Connected Ed has focused on is how do we create a data system that can truly follow the students from age birth to career and college ready. So as you see, all these collaboratives are doing different work, but when we put them together, it's really going to inform us about how do we create this seamless system. Last year, a very important thing happened on the Oregon Education Investment Board, and that is that we passed an equity lens policy. Equity's lens is really making sure that all of our students are successful, particularly our students in the achievement gap. I want to just share a few of the core beliefs of the equity lens, because everything we do from the state will be through the equity lens. So, here are some of the beliefs. Every student has the ability to learn. Speaking a language other than English is an asset. Special education services are our educational responsibility. Students previously described as at risk are our best opportunity for improved outcomes. Intentional, research-based practices must be used to get our out-of-youth students back in school. Rich history and culture is an asset to be celebrated. And I'll tell you, in Springfield, when I got to go to a quinceanera with our students, it was just amazing. It was I loved that celebration. It's only second for me to a bar or bat mitzvah. But these cultures have such richness to bring not only to our educational system, but to our state. The last core belief is we have to support our teachers, because our teachers are the people who are going to work so closely with our students. Well, the last thing I learned as I was around the state is communicate, communicate, communicate. Let everyone know what the Oregon Education Investment Board does. So we're unveiling our very new, you're the first group to see this, so if you would just pull this out, this is one of the many things we're doing to communicate. We have an OEIB bulletin. But I want you to look at this young man, and is he about the cutest young guy you ever saw? I'm thinking the only one cuter are my grandchildren and your grandchildren and your children, right? But this child deserves a quality education, and that's our job with the Oregon Education Investment Board. If you open it up, the teacher in me is coming out, so if you open it up, the first thing it says, what's at stake? And we have a lot at stake in our state, because we do have students in the achievement gap, students who are not achieving as well as other students. So we have a vision for changing that. Now, if you open to the middle, what you're going to see is that pathway I talk so much about, and you're also going to see some of those targets written in a way that is much less academic and much easier for everyone in our state to understand. If you turn to the page that has an explanation point, what that says is we are going to advocate. The OEIB is going to advocate for key investments that we know can help our students be successful. We're going to accelerate. We're going to do that by having a seamless system that overcomes barriers. And we're going to engage. We're always going to be open to talking and listening to our communities to find out what's going on in your community, what's working in your community, and what we need to do to support your community. The next panel is a very inspirational letter from our governor about the American dream and how important education is for the American dream. And on the back are some very important statements. It says, because every Oregon student deserves to have a quality education, because education should be a top priority for all of us statewide, because our economy grows when we have an educated and trained workforce, because Oregon should be rated at the top of education, not at the bottom, because the jobs of tomorrow require new skills. So that's about the Oregon Education Investment Board, and we're just thrilled to share that with you. So I'm going to stop now. I'm going to stay for questions, and then I'm going for a walk with a panda. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Golden. And now if you have a written question on an index card, please hold it high so City Club staff can collect it from you. We'll now take questions from the floor. As always, we invite members to the microphone to ask their question. Asking questions at the Friday Forum microphone is a benefit of City Club membership, and membership is open to everyone. Before asking your question, identify yourself as a City Club member. Please only ask one question and ask your question as succinctly as possible. If I flash this question mark card, it means please wrap it up.
Chris Andre, City Club member. I wish I will be listening this evening because I missed the first part. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your ideas and your vision for the future. My question is, there is a gap as well between training and education. I understand that there are extreme economic pressures on some students which might force them into training, whereas their heart and their imagination might lie more in education. Can we balance the training required for job skills and that sort of thing with education, which enriches lives and enriches us as a people, as a community?
Could you repeat? I couldn't hear the question.
Balancing training, technical training, with more abstract ideas and standards that the state is putting out.
Sure. So that's another area we did make an investment in, is career technical education. What we know in 40-40-20 is that 20% of, the goal is that 20% of our students will leave career and college ready, but many of them will go right into the workforce. And we do know career technical education is critically important. We've got grants out now for some hubs around career technical education and STEM, and there's careers beyond just STEM. So we think that is important. We also think it's very important not only to teach core skills, but to teach creativity and things like that. And you know, just an example of the Academy of Arts and Academics, and every school can do stuff like this. One night I went out to visit the students, and I went to a jazz, it was called Jazz Station, and it was in Eugene. And I saw some of our jazz students who play jazz playing with local musicians. And I thought, that is very cool. Then another student stood up and said, we're studying social justice in my English language arts social studies block. So I've written, and I care passionately about poverty, so I've written a poem on poverty. And my colleague, who was another student in the class, has written the score for the music that's going to be played while I read my poem. They hand the music to the jazz band. The jazz band plays the music written by one student, as another is reading a poem about an important social justice issue. So we are advocating for education that's rich, that's hands-on, but also at the same time meets high standards. And again, our teacher who got this award is a perfect example of how you combine them. So I think it all can be done and be done well.
The bottom line, I'm Jean Magmer, and I'm a City Club member, and the bottom line is always money. And three things happened this week that underline that. Number one was the report about the University of Oregon and its standing. The second was the test scores of our fourth graders and eighth graders. And the third is the City Club report on the need to revamp property taxes. What, in your opinion, can we as citizens do to reverse the disinvestment in education that we've been experiencing these last few years?
You know, I want to begin by saying what has happened so far, because I believe if we get a reinvestment in education, everybody needs to know we've been really as effective and efficient as we can. So we all know our governor has done health care reform that is beginning to reduce the cost in health care and bring good health care. We also know that he's worked around safety issues, because that was very costly, particularly things like Measure 11, which put people in jail that are nonviolent crimes. In addition to that, he listened to citizens around Oregon, and they said that we need to do some PERS reform, which we did accomplish just in the special session. So now the next thing together we need to do is talk about tax reform. This is a state I believe deeply does need tax reform. I will just tell you, as a superintendent, having a stable funding source is really critical. We would get going on innovations, and then we would have to go. There was a $120 million budget in Springfield, and we cut $38 million out of that budget. Conversations shift to what's going to be cut as opposed to how do we keep moving forward with education. So stability is critical, but I think it's a process of showing we're all working to get costs down, to showing that we're really invested in a vision of 40-40-20, and then I do believe people will come to the table and support stable funding for our schools.
We have a question from the floor. City Club recently changed its bylaws so that students under 18 can become members. In what ways will students be at the table as stakeholders in the 40-40-20 initiative?
I couldn't hear the first one.
In what ways will students be at the table as stakeholders in the 40-40-20 initiative?
Well, students at the table is critically important, and another way we did civic engagement in Springfield with, I had a group of 22 students who advised me from what vendor gets pizza to, you know, do we need to build new buildings, or when we think about reduction, how are we going to do that? In this new position, I am going to start a student advisory committee who will be advising me, but when your responsibility is the whole state, I'm also going to go out and meet with students all over the state with very focused questions when it's necessary to hear from students. I think in addition to that, I'm going to work with administrators for the community, from the Council of Oregon School Administrators, to see if within their schools we could build more student advisory committees or go to leadership committees. The voice of the students are critical. They are our future, and they are so smart.
We have time for one final question.
Yes, Kay Bridges, and I've been in business for myself, or self-employed at least, since 1980. My own dentist even said I had to go back to school to learn how to run my business. What are we doing for entrepreneurship in the school system in Oregon? Because there may not be the job out there. We need people who can start their own business and know how to run a business.
So again, I think that's when we're talking about the kind of skills students need. We're really talking about skills like creativity, critical thinking, decision making. So if you take core skills, reading, writing, and math, and then you make sure in addition we have very rich classes where kids are encouraged, students are encouraged to really think, be creative, and quite honestly, that's why I am such an advocate for the arts. I think the arts really help us in that area. If we do that, we will have students who are entrepreneurish. We do have students who are entrepreneurish, and I think there's innovation conferences around that really sort of, I think, I'm not sure, I think in Bend they were going to create an innovation conference, but it would be great to put together a conference for students where they can come together and event and share inventions. So lots of possibilities there.
Unfortunately, we have run out of broadcast time for further questions, and we'll have to stop for today. Please join us next week for an interview with Merritt Paulson, owner and president of the Portland Timbers and Portland Thorns. And as we close for today, please join me in offering our sincere thanks to our speaker, Dr. Nancy Golden, the Multnomah Bar Foundation, and our Civic Award winners, Momentum Alliance, Oregon Community Foundation, Community 101, and our Civic Laureate, Kendall Jensen. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you.